Kind of a tough act to follow. I don't know if we're that funny and interesting. I will leave it to this amazing panel to be funny and interesting, okay? No pressure. So here we are, we're talking about data, clean data in particular. And the reason when we were thinking about panels, we thought that this one was really important because it's the base for everything that we do with real time. And not just real time, but customer experiences and processes in your office and real time. So we thought, let's talk about data. And I think it tends to get neglected or overlooked, especially in smaller offices where maybe you don't have the resources or the time the day-to-day happens and the auditing and those kinds of things that have to happen to make your data clean. Just, you don't get to it. So we're going to talk about it today. We have a great group of very experienced people here, a very large group actually. And so what I'm going to do is just ask them to introduce themselves and also what your role is and what you think your expert part is, why you're on the panel, what it is that you're going to be able to bring that might be unique. Each one of these people has a different vantage point, so it'll be very interesting. The other thing I just want to say before I do that is please ask questions. We do have some prepared questions and we'll share everything we've got in our brains, but it'll be more exciting and more interesting for you if you can ask whatever it is you want to ask, and we will do our best to answer. And hopefully the goal is at the end of this you've got some golden nuggets that you've found or things you're going to take back to your office that you can use going forward. So, without further ado, we have the lovely Amanda Ketelaars with Mitchell & Whale. So take it away, Amanda. I don't know.
We're recording.
Yeah, I don't think it has to go too close with these.
They're picking up everything.
Yeah.
So I'm Amanda Ketelaars. I'm operations manager at Mitchell & Whale. And I think I bring a unique perspective to the panel with my experience. So I sort of started in the brokerage, moved over to the vendor side, so understanding the data from the vendor side. I spent a year at CSIO, so from the standard side, so those who create or sort of make the data standard, and now spending a year back in the brokerage from the operations side of it and seeing how important the data is to our business.
My name is Kim Opheim. I'm a product manager with Applied Systems. From a clean data perspective, we're obviously interested in helping our clients get the cleanest data possible into the system so that they can use it to automate their brokerages. My background, I've been all over the industry, a lot like Amanda. I was a broker for many years, so I certainly understand the world of the broker and the challenges you face. I was IT manager for a large broker in Southern Ontario, so from a data cleanliness perspective, I certainly appreciate the challenges that a brokerage has in managing that and working with your people to help them, to train them so that they know the importance of and the why behind wanting clean data.
Hi there, Matt Russell, Custom Software Solutions. I'm an account manager. Custom Software, we offer a management solution for both retail brokers and MGAs, as well as company integrations. Clean data is essential for our program or for our company for a number of reasons. We utilize it for automated services on the broker side, as well as customized reporting for border row reporting, and we also utilize it for a number of straight-through processes we built for insurance company integrations. Prior to me joining the sales team at CSSI, I spent a lot of time in the IT training and support sector, learning the ins and outs of both the data collection from a broker standpoint on a ratings as well as what's required from an upload standpoint. So,
wow. There is a lot of knowledge here today. So my name's Dianna George, and I'm currently on the vendor side. I'm with a software company that handles electronic signatures. Prior to that, I worked at a brokerage for almost 16 years. I really was a jack of all trades. I've done personal lines, commercial lines, operations, and I think what I'm going to bring to this panel today was the auditing that we did to ensure and help us with keeping the data as clean as possible.
I'm David Bell. I'm a manager of projects at BrokerLink. From a clean data perspective, my team is responsible for data integrations, whether it's between BMSs through an acquisition, between BMSs internally, and between different departments internally, and how the BMS integrates with things like your own website, insurer portals. So that's what my team does all day, is kind of clean data.
I'm just going to turn this back on. I don't have reverb or something. I don't know, I sound like a techie person. So you can see all different perspectives. So I'm really excited about this and see what we're going to talk about. So I'm going to start this off, unless anyone has a question right off the gate. No? Okay. So we're going to say, let's talk about what clean data means. So each one of them may have a different opinion about that. And then if you could do that first, and hold on, let me scroll up. Okay. What in particular makes it important to you? So what item makes it important to you? And if you could provide a sample process or project where the clean data was important. So if I could ask you each to share that, and then we're going to talk about the challenges, what we could do differently, and we'll go from there. So,
Can you ask the question?
So the question is,
She's surprising us with this.
well, okay, I kind of put them all together. I'm sorry. Okay, so what does clean data mean to you?
Okay.
Second question, what in particular makes it important?
Okay.
And what project?
Gotcha.
Okay. Everybody's good? Okay, I'm going to turn this off. And just, if you have a question, stop us anytime, and I will bring the mic over. Okay, go.
Okay. So first of all, clean data means to me really that all fields are completed, and completed with the data that is expected to be in that field in the format that the data is expected to be in that field. Really is ultimately what clean data means, I think, for this panel, what we were looking at. What in particular made me realize how important clean data was? I think in all the roles working with brokers sort of across the country, from the vendor side, sorry, my notes have gone away on me. I miss paper.
No!
All right. But from the vendor side, working with brokers across the country, I would work with them with their workflows, and we rely on upload and download and communicating with our companies. And if the data's not in the right spot, or the information that we expect to be there isn't there, it makes sort of every action we take from there difficult. In our brokerage specifically, so I'm just going to come back to the brokerage side of it, is we need to automate communications, right? We're doing a lot of different things with our clients, and we need to be able to communicate with our clients quickly and in an automated manner. It's a little difficult to sort of feel comfortable in doing that automation, or sort of letting a system take care of that communication if we don't feel comfortable with the data that's there. One of my favorite examples is the email that goes out that said, "Dear, $560. Someone put in the sort of what would follow after dear that someone owed money, and with that data not being in the right place, that left a really awful feeling for our client. So our client got an email that was clearly automated, that was clearly not sort of personalized or intended for them, and now the perception of our brokerages is sort of not a good one, and the client's not feeling like we've taken a lot of time with them. And then we start to move into, automating processes that happen in the office. So renewal is a big one. We need to be communicating with our clients, and we need to be sort of working for our clients. And there's nothing worse than starting that renewal process with asking your clients for data they expect that you have and that they know they've given it to you in the past. So without having that data in the system where it's supposed to be, we really have to ask for it again. And that, again, leaves the client feeling uncomfortable about sort of the information that we have and how we're protecting them as their broker. So it's really important that we have that. And then I think from an E&O standpoint, we need to make sure that we know that we have the proper coverages in place and that we have the proper information on our clients to make sure that we are insuring them the way they should be. So if we don't have that, it's risking our reputation with our clients, it's risking E&O, and it's taking everything longer, because every year I have to ask the client that same question over and over again. So it doesn't give a great feeling to our team. Our team feels sort of, I think, embarrassed a lot of times to have to go back to that. So if we get the data where it's supposed to be, when it's supposed to be there, we can have an all-around good experience for our team and our clients.
Before Kim comments, how many in your brokerage offices have you had that conversation where you're asking a client something that you should have in your system, right? it's very, they're not impressed at all. And they usually comment right away. Don't you have that on your system? You're my broker. So it's these kinds of things that are so hard to manage. And also, just further to your comment about the mass mailing. And I think for some brokerages, this is a new thing. It's not an easy thing either to do, because you do have to have the data clean. What happens, I think, is you end up doing this mass campaign, and then you have to groom the whole thing, look the whole thing over before you actually send it. Is that what's happening in some of your offices as well? Or then you go, oh, I don't even think we can do it. It's too daunting, right? It comes back down to the data. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to manage that a little bit better later, but I think those are good points just to hang on to, put a pin in them for later. So, Kim?
First of all, I have to ask Amanda, did they pay the account?
Good question.
No.
I'm not even 100% sure that they did.
Receivables is always a challenge for sure. So very similar to Amanda, I think clean data is accurate data in the right place. I was trying to think of an analogy, and what I came up with was the idea of your car. You know, you have gasoline you put in the car, you have windshield washer fluid, you have brake fluid, you have oil, and as long as it all goes in the right place, things work really well. But the moment you put windshield washer in your gas tank, all of a sudden everything grinds to a halt. So clean data is really very important to have if you want to be able to automate your brokerage so that you can do those mass mailings without all that grooming. Because, you know, I've been there working in a brokerage that you want to do that mass mailing and you hit the go button and all of a sudden you get an error message because you hit a roadblock, and that roadblock is dirty data. I remember the advice years ago that your brokerage should always be in sales condition. And what I mean by that is that you want your brokerage to be sales ready. So if you wanted to sell the brokerage, not that you want to do that, but if an opportunity came along that you'd be able to take advantage of it. If your data is so dirty, so that it's so out of alignment that you couldn't take advantage of an opportunity like that, that puts you at a disadvantage. So I think it's just from a mindset perspective that you want your brokerage to be clean and operating well. Your clean data is part of that. So and if it's running correctly, then you're going to be more profitable. In our dealings with as a BMS, we work with our clients obviously, but our clients are varied. They're obviously brokers, but we also do a lot of work with carriers. And what we're hearing from carriers is they're very concerned about clean data, and that brokers can meet that obligation to, when they send an upload to the carrier, that it is accurate and it's the right data. Right now, the carrier side of the industry is going through kind of a renaissance period. They're replacing their legacy systems with the Guidewire platform. There's about 19.
How many? Good.
Yeah, about 19 companies, and it's pretty much A to Z that are working on this. And as they improve their back-end systems and upgrade them, being able to have that clean data is really important to them. But what I was also going to say is that they will be doing more validation up front. So for your producers, your CSRs to have a good experience with the carriers, if they know in advance through good training how to collect the data in the first place from the client or the prospect, then when they go to push something to the carrier, they'll have the right data in the right place. The transaction will go smoothly without it being rejected or a lot of back and forth. So just to have, like, even for your own employees to have a good experience, clean data is essential.
Mm-hmm. Now, are you also experiencing that? A lot of time trying to enter your portals back and forth? Or do you hear from your staff at all in that area? Yeah. Anybody have any suggestions on that? Training, I guess. And each carrier portal is different, which is the other issue. But if the base of the data is correct, you've won half the battle, I guess, is the point. So Matthew.
So as a software company that offers both the management system as well as integrations with the company, one of the things that we sell on both sides is efficiencies. And it doesn't matter if you're talking about upload to a company or automated processes in the system, whether it be automatic invoicing of downloads or automating the reconciliation of your broker statements from your companies. Without clean data, those processes can't happen. One of the things Kim talked about was validating data. It goes the same for uploading to companies. Clean data needs to be in the system. It needs to be validated in order for straight-through processing to take place. Easy example is address validation. CSIO standards for years, all it required was 2 lines of address for an address field. Well, you can't honestly expect a company to accept a risk based on 2 lines of free-formed address information. So being able to validate information before it even gets to the carrier is essential for a lot of these automated processes, whether it's upload or internal within the BMS. So some of the challenges we're going to get that later, I guess.
Yeah, we can talk more about how to fix it later.
So anyways, that's how it's important to us. We utilize it on both sides. The integrations that we build for companies aren't just for our software vendor, but also for other vendors as well, whether it's TAN, Keel, or Power Broker. So when we build these integrations, when we build them, we validate the information from other vendor solutions as well. So clean data is essential right from the front end, right through to the back end, upload to the company. So it goes a long way through our company for sure.
Okay, Diana.
Well, Kim, now I know why my car stopped working. Windshield washer fluid has to go in that spot.
Yeah, and it shouldn't be pink.
Okay.
I read this. The pink is
I like the
something
blue
else.
better.
Yeah, stick to the blue.
I know what the pink is.
Yeah.
Okay.
It doesn't go in the windshield.
No. I like that analogy a lot. I did. So I'm not going to get into the definition of what clean data is because I think they've covered it. And I'm actually going to go with this from a different perspective from what we've heard so far. And I'm going to go with the auditing and reporting. Being able to run valid and current reports within your management system is vital to the data being clean and correct. If you can't count on the data that's in your system, then there's no point in even running reports. And in order to do that, and we'll touch on it in a little bit, the audits are also very important when it comes to making sure that your data is clean. And I'm going to end it there for now.
Well, and Dave has experience in that auditing area too.
Yeah.
But let's hear what your perspective is here.
Yeah, same with the definition. Clean data basically comes down to, for us, it's not only having the same, as Kim was saying, the same data in the same fields, but allows you then to define what that means across your company. So what does a new business definition look like for you? For accounting, they'll say it's whatever month it was purchased in. For underwriting, they're going to say, no, I sold it this year or this month, so therefore it's this month. So it allows you to do that, but if people are putting in different information or have a different definition, to your reports concept, it makes it very challenging. From BrokerLink's perspective with the clean data, from whether you're doing an acquisition and you're integrating different databases together, or you're working with vendor partners to do a BMS upgrade or to work with e-signature, if you don't have your data in a consistent format, it makes it almost impossible. At BrokerLink, even something as simple as working with your own website. So you have a website out there, your client's doing a quote. Do you really want somebody sitting there retyping all that information, or you want the data coming over and they've put, oh yeah, I have a Chev Traverse, and it comes over and all of a sudden it's showing up in your telephone number field. It doesn't help. So from all that, from the integration perspective, it's utmost importance. As your companies get larger, we're finding it even more important in the training and consistency standpoint. So in order to train everybody to have a consistent approach for your customers, consistent approach across all of your offices, if you don't have clean data and a consistent workflow, it becomes almost impossible. And ultimately it affects your customer. As somebody said earlier, if you're calling in and saying you should have that data, well, if you don't have my phone number because somebody's entered it in an email field and now you can't find it, that's not going to be any help to anybody. And another thing that we're finding is as you try to grow, integrating something as simple as an e-signature tool, you try to grow. If you don't know what's happening today in your office, you can't evaluate the impacts, and how do you train somebody moving forward not knowing what you're impacting?
Yeah, it's completely true. Any questions from anybody so far? Wendy has a question. Surprise!
I'm hearing lots about data and, addresses and such, but what about information used by more than one person in your brokerage? And Dave and Dianna were sort of alluding to about reports, but what about servicing a customer? Like, do you look at that stuff so that if you serviced Arnie last week when he called and I got the call this week, do you look at that as well?
Absolutely.
To make sure that I'm as quick as I can in servicing Arnie, because it's, yeah. So can you talk about that at all?
Yeah, I mean, I think in all of the sort of vendor systems or customer relationship systems that we have, there's a log of sort of actions that have happened. And it really is important. So this is sort of something I had to bring in when I came into the brokerage. They were putting abeyances in the system when someone called however they wanted to. So I had to start auditing and seeing what workflows look like. It was nearly impossible to find out what happened on an account. So that was the very first thing I did when I came in, and it didn't sound like much. Took a little bit to convince the team that it was important, but now that it's done, they can see that. So we basically put into place the way that you put in any communications, whether it's email, phone in, phone out. I'm not sure if it works for everybody, but we got rid of, doesn't matter if it was an email, doesn't matter if it was a phone call. So we took that out. We had a communication with our client, and here's everything that happened. And it's changed the process. So I think I was in there for about 3 months before we had our first company audit, and I spent a long night sort of going, how am I ever going to find the data for this audit? We just had one recently, and what took me 4 days the last time took me about 2 hours this time, because it was easy to find. So it really is a good point, Wendy, that you want to look at what your staff is doing, not just the fields there, but the fields that are free-form, making sure that they all know how to use it and what information is there. And I think it's important too, just to add to that, is making sure they understand why it's important. One of our big ones, and this was a big one that came up in all of our audits, was don't put insured, put their full name. That's one small piece of that, and they couldn't figure out why. They didn't understand why, so we took some time to explain why, and I haven't seen insured in there in months. But because they understand why it's so important. They just thought it was sort of Amanda saying, I want to see their name, but they understand the importance. So I think that's a big piece of it, is making sure they understand why they're doing it, and then having the process in place with the specifics of what they should do.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, because that you alluded to basically is that it's one baby step at a time.
Yes.
To get to the clean data. It doesn't have to be this big, overwhelming project where you think we don't have time to do it. Start with one thing and get it going, and then move to the next thing and have a plan. And I think that's what you've started to do in your brokerage.
Just going to add to that, if you talk to your E&O carrier, they would tell you that your notes have to tell a story. And an interesting test you could do in your own offices is pull notes from a year ago or 2 years ago and put them in front of each, the author of each of those notes, and ask them today, can you tell me what happened? And if they can't tell you what happened from their notes, then they're not telling a very good story. And if you're ever in a situation where you have to defend yourself in court, you're probably going to lose. So, but just going back in time, because you can do that quite easily, look at the notes, do they make sense? If they do, great. If they don't, you have some remedial work to do.
I love that. That's an eye-opening moment.
But on that same note, and we've done this, the system needs to tell the story. And I've had experiences where CSRs and service staff like to use short forms. And they're great for the person typing them that day. But on that note, I used to say to the CSR, have Buddy next door read this and tell me if they know what this is saying. So, as you were saying, it's got to tell the story, but it's got to it's got to be in a language that anybody in the office can understand.
We developed a sheet about for the short forms. We had somebody that had T/P, and they were using it for tenants packages. And we're thinking third party. So everybody's reading the notes, and you're like, really? And the whole thing was like acronyms, like you could barely read it. So that's a nice tip, to do a sheet. And this is our standard for our office that we use. Yeah. It sounds like maybe auditing we should talk about auditing right now, because we're sort of on that vein. We'll start with those who have audited in their offices, and probably most of you can speak to this. What processes or practices have you implemented in your own offices? Maybe just pick one that you use that's been effective.
So from an audit perspective, we would sit down as a management team back in the day, and we would decide what exactly it was that we were looking for. What were we trying to extract from the management system? And based on that information, we ran reports within the management system, used Excel, did some filters, very, very quick eye-opener. What fields were missing? What fields had ridiculous information in them? And based on that, we used it as a training tool, twofold. One, we would look at fields. Sometimes there were fields where everybody forgot to fill in information. So then it didn't become, from our perspective, an issue of a service person neglecting to enter information. It became a training issue. What did we do wrong from this training perspective? And so it was two-sided, where we could look at how can we deliver this message to them in a different way? As Amanda was saying, make them understand the importance of why we need this information. And so we used it that way. We also used it for praise, where we had certain staff who would always enter information, and we would bring that forward and praise them in a public forum, like pat them on the back. And then for the offenders, they were contacted one-on-one. We would never, bring that information forward in a public forum. Sit them down, talk to them, again, explain the importance of why we needed that information, and maybe get some feedback from them. And then a lot of times we did some piggybacking, where we took some of the offenders and had them shadow the people that were getting praised, just to give those offenders a different perspective on how different ways to gather that information, because they may not have been comfortable with how or know how to ask the question.
Well, and did that trickle down to performance reviews or additional audits, or several of you have done that in your offices. How does that happen for you, or did happen for you?
So, this will always affect a performance review, right? There's always going to be KPIs associated with every staff person, regardless of what their job is, what their role is in the company. And so they were. And for the ones that were offenders, and this was a trickle-down effect. So at the beginning, we may have said, we're going to, and I'm just throwing numbers out, we're going to audit 5 of your files every 2 weeks. And then it just became a trickle effect, where the ones who were offenders, the audits were consistent and they continued until it was improved. Where the ones who did a good job and gathered that information, you may not audit as many of their files as often, because again, you didn't need to. You just wouldn't need to. And again, it would affect those performance reviews. And at the end of the day, it is going to affect compensation, because for the staff that are gathering information and doing what needs to be done all the time, they're going to perform higher. They're going to be compensated for it.
Dave, do you have a comment on that as well?
Yeah, we've done a couple of things, both at BrokerLink and in a past life with audit and data. It's from a project management perspective. I've looked at an audit. We have the people that are looking at the KPIs, obviously, to make sure people are doing everything consistently and entering the information where they should. From a project perspective, I'd always bring along one of my business analysts, and we look at it from, why is it always wrong? What's the process? Is there something we're missing? So we've learned lots of information about, this company doesn't download this properly, or shouldn't say properly, the same way as everybody else. Or, this process generates an activity and then it stays open and I have to go back and look at it. It'd be simple if it just closed, nobody ever looks at it, it doesn't need to happen. So we've always looked at it from the other perspective of, what are you doing wrong, but what could we improve in the system?
And how did you get at that data? Was this from a report, like you would just an audit you would do regularly?
There was, We have an audit team that goes out and
Okay.
they pick certain files, a certain number of files for a certain number of offices, and they go in and the people
And they
that like
go
to do
for it.
that, and they sit there with their stacks and they go through everything, and then we just kind of look at the results. And then from the results, we can talk to some of the staff to say, okay, every time this was wrong, how come? Is there something that we can do differently? We looked at it from a best practices perspective as well. Maybe what we thought when we were sitting around a room drawing out the workflow was great, it doesn't actually work. So, actually talk to people to find out.
And Amanda, I think you have another way that your office does it.
Yeah, so we have a unique way. Our office is a little bit different than sort of, I guess, the traditional brokerage. We have a high volume of new business going through every day. So it really became difficult, although I love the once and done approach, it really became difficult for the sales brokers to keep up with portals and different rules of 20 different markets. So we had to implement a team to do that process for them. And to really take advantage of that team is we made that an underwriting team in the sense that they need to look that everything is in the system where it's supposed to be. So the process has gone from coming in through the web into CompuQuote, from CompuQuote into the BMS, from the BMS to the underwriting team who's taking it out through. And we take that opportunity to sort of audit at that point. So we have a group who are auditing to make sure, and they're really actually doing sort of everything that Dianna and Dave both talked about. So they're looking to see, is our process working? They're looking to see that the data is in the right place. And we're also taking that extra step to sort of be able to go back to the companies and say, this process isn't working as we go through this process. So whether it be from the website to the CompuQuote to the company portal. So that's sort of the audit that we've put in place. And our audit process doesn't sort of, at this point, come down to performance evaluations in the same format. We look at all of those steps. Clients don't care that all of those steps are happening. So we sort of take that as the approach of how we make those steps wow the client. So the faster that process can happen, and that's the ultimate question. So as we've gone through this whole process, has it wowed the client by getting the policy out faster, or getting the information to them, or getting on the phone with them faster? So that's sort of the compensation that we have. So the expectation is that all of our brokers are wowing the client, and the end process for our underwriting team is to make sure that everything's there that we need. We take it a step further. We have to audit those files. They're human as well. So we do an audit we have our management team that does the audit for that, or we, yes, that does the audit for that piece, just to make sure that piece is happening. But it really changed when we put that process in place to find that data was sort of ending up where it needed to be.
How do you do that for yourself? If you're a manager, that's probably some in the room as well. How do you chunk that time off? Because it's one of those things that falls, just from experience, I'm speaking from my own experience, it's not the top of the food chain. Like, there's other things to do. So it ends up getting sometimes not done. How do you manage that for yourself?
That's a great question. And basically there's a block of time. I know that I block a day. It's a busy organization. There's lots going on. I block a sort of no meeting day that I keep open, and on that no meeting day is my audit day. So we take that time, and I have to. It takes a bit, but I have to be very strict about it. It's sort of, I go into my little bubble, and if I don't, then I'm penalized with detention. So on that day it happens, whether it happens during the day or sort of at the end of the day.
So you squish it in.
I squish it in no matter what. And again, it wasn't an easy process, but the value of it was so important that I had to find a way to make it.
And it probably gets easier and easier as you do more audits. Things improve, you talk to people, and then there's less time involved.
Yes.
Was my experience too. And so Kim and Matt, from a vendor perspective, are there some best practices that you think brokers should use, or tools that are available that they should use, or data improvement?
From a best practices perspective, I think the best advice I can give is don't put dirty data into the system. So training really at the front end. So when you're onboarding new staff, making sure they're trained in the right processes so they know how to do it is really crucial. When you take your data or the results of your audit, and you look at who is entering data consistently the right way, or consistently the wrong way rather, you need to do remedial training with those folks to make sure that they understand the importance of it. And I think telling people the why really goes a long way to ensuring compliance. If it's just a rule and they don't understand why they have to do it that way, they'll just do it their own way, and that's not going to help anybody. Listening to everybody talk about larger organizations being able to have audit teams. That's the perfect world. Oftentimes, though, for smaller organizations, you don't have audit teams. It's an audit person or it's an audit quarter of a person. So using the tools within the BMS to help you find bad data, I think, is a real time saver. And Dianna alluded to it, but using the search functionality in your BMS, problematic field, and you probably know from experience where the problems happen. But you take the email field; it's supposed to hold an email address, and so if you do a search on your customer screens, and then add also that the CSR code or whatever name, and then you put it into Excel. It's easy to do a quick sort, and you'll see the blanks. So these are the people that aren't even asking for an email, or then you'll see the data that's not an email address, like if somebody owes $500 or whatever the case might be. So it's easy to find the data once you get used to working with the tools that are in the system. And it really simplifies the audit processing, finding that bad data.
Finding the needle in the haystack.
Yeah. It's actually, computers are very smart. I've done searches that involved millions of lines of data, and with the right tools, you put in your search criteria, walk away, and 10 minutes later you've got your results. And you can't really find that needle in a haystack.
So let Excel, the best thing that's ever been created, use that for. Okay, I'm a little bit of a geek. Use that is one way to get to that.
Yes.
And then do you have the offenders fix it, or do you have a summer student come in? What do you do? What have you done in the past where you have just an ugly mess? Dave, you might have had an ugly mess in the past.
Yeah, we've done both, depending on what the issue is. For things like emails, it's usually easier for the offender because next time you talk to your client, get their email. Make sure you do that, and then there's been contests around that, or however you want to generate campaigns around that. Certain other things where it's just if you can't automate a process to fix it, then summer students are great. They're always willing to help out, especially doing things that other people don't want to do. So that's what we found it has been the best. And to your point earlier about not taking on the mountain, break it down into chunks. If you can link it back to what's an end goal, and for us you can get really simple if especially on the commercial side where your producers are always looking for that next sale. If you can't tell me what your sales funnel is, then you've got an issue in the way that you've entered the data. So here's how we're going to fix it. And if you can link it back, whether it's directly through a compensation program or just link it back to their commission, you'll get results in a hurry.
If you're going to use summer students, make sure you audit
The summer students.
I remember one insurance company brought some summer students in to enter data, so they told them what to do, and then they walked away from it. 2 months later, it's the end of the summer, and they were going back to school, and they looked at it, and every piece of data was entered wrong.
Oh.
So they created a lot of bad data. So,
That's a good takeaway. Can you imagine? That would be, it could make like double the problem.
And actually, just before we go on, just back to something Kim had said, I'm just looking around the room and not sure the size of everybody's brokerage, but I know with smaller brokerages, when you can't have teams to do audit or to look at the data in that piece, I'm in a brokerage that we've doubled in size of team and in size of premium volume in a year. But we're a small brokerage growing very fast. So I don't have audit teams, and we don't have sort of 1 million people that can help us do this, or hundreds of people that can help us, but it's possible. So we are doing it. The audit's happening, the fields are getting updated. So if you're a small broker sort of thinking, how can I do this? The biggest thing that we've said is, you take it one chunk at a time, but it's absolutely doable in fitting it into making it part of the process. So just, again, I know we've looked at sort of the high scale of it, but it is easy to do with the small broker. Not easy, but it is possible to do within the smaller brokerages.
Yeah, and I would comment further to that as well. We see some brokerages who start with the service. They're auditing service. So they're auditing, how did they respond to the client? Did they put the activity in correctly or something like that? But they don't get down to the data. So like just for interesting. How many audit for service right now? 1, 2. Okay. And how many audit for data in the system?
Maybe you should ask how many audit. How many
audit? Let's start there.
Yeah, audit, I
We'll back it up. How many audit? Okay. So about a quarter of the room.
It can be daunting.
It can be daunting. And I think that if there's any takeaway, it doesn't have to be take it in small chunks, I think is one. But also, I'll just comment for you, Matt, in your system, is there any advice you have or special tools that you would recommend to use to try to audit?
Well, the biggest thing is, from our standpoint, would be training, which has been brought up. But to elaborate further, when we develop our system for the data collection, whether it's on the rating side for upload or on the accounting side for premiums and billing information, we sell efficiencies and we develop our system based on simplicity. So you want to have as little many free-form fields as possible. However, you're never going to eliminate free-form fields for certain data fields that are required. So when we talked about training, one thing Amanda talked about was with insured name. Big part of training is how to use the program. Well, that's easy. You can show anyone how to use the program, but a big part of it is explaining why. Explain why the information needs to be there, both current and for future use, whether it's for correspondence with the client down the road, or whether it's sending information to or receiving information from the company. So we talk a lot about training, but training is more than just how to use the program, but why you use the program the way you do. So.
Question.